I was fortunate enough to get an offer very early in the placement process. I think I had an offer in February. I still felt like I could do better. I was actively consulting the same company that I ended up joining after my MBA. I think I just didn't want my search to get over that quickly.
I see.
Okay? So I was like, okay, fine, this is what the campus has gotten. It's a great offer. Let me still go out there and see what I can pursue. Then during that time, I was speaking with a couple of organizations and, with Ampm as well. The negotiations kept ongoing. And then finally, I think we'd reached a point where both sides were completely aligned that this is a great opportunity.
Hi, welcome everyone. A very good afternoon. I am super thrilled to be welcoming one of the most popular students of Masters Union on campus. Welcome back, Prabhu.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being back on campus again.
It is a pleasure to have you here. And whenever Prabhu comes, I see like this bunch of current students. The UG students also know you. It's like Prabhu is there and people are like, okay, Prabhu is here. So that kind of energy and that kind of connect when, the current students have with the alumni, it's very relevant and it's very cherishing for me to see that kind of connect that the alumni are able to create in such a short time. So kudos to you for that.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure coming back to campus. I think a part of me always looks forward to this experience. It's not very easy because my work primarily keeps me in Delhi and Noida. So coming to Gurgaon is not easy. But if I'm around and I just walk past that road, the flyover, every time my eyes go up and I'm like, just need to take a U-turn and go to campus one more time. Was here for a year and it was definitely a pleasure.
No, fantastic. So, and we'll keep calling you back and we'll keep, I'm sure the students will keep calling you back more than us.
They will. I'm certain of that. I think more than the administration, the students keep asking me to come back.
Which is what is more important, right?
And I never say
fulfilling.
no. I never say no.
Exactly.
I'm also getting something out of it.
Fantastic. So, Prabhu, thanks again for making the time. It's truly a pleasure to be hosting you. And there's a lot to unpack. You've done your MBA here. It's been a couple of months that you've started your new role, etc. But I would like to start from the time where you actually heard of Masters Union and go back to the time when you were thinking, where do I want to apply for business school, etc. Tell me your journey. How did you discover Masters Union? What were some questions in your mind when you were applying, and what finally made you apply here?
Oh, that's a long one. So I think the first time I heard about Masters Union, and I have to keep remembering which year am I. So we were in 2023.
Yes.
I applied in 2022. So 2021, I think that time Cohort 2 was what Masters Union was actively recruiting for.
Right.
And I had checked with one of my friends, one of my mentors actually. He was also my professor for quant, for CAT section. And I'd asked him, and he was like, very early, are you sure you want to take the risk? And I was like, seems good, yeah. I like the vibe and the energy of the brand. So I didn't apply that year.
Okay.
Cohort 2, I think I skipped. In hindsight, I would still say a good decision because I would have liked to be in Cohort 3 as much as I love my people. And I gave CAT that year. I was also preparing for GMAT at the time, and for CAT, I think my first attempt didn't go as well. Typically, just, you could do as well as you can in the mocks, and then it's an unforgiving exam. So
that's why I never even tried it. I was like,
No, CAT certainly. I think it put me in that frame of mind that what, everything was right. What happened on the day of the exam that you managed to screw up, and that too. The irony of the situation is that I screwed up VRC section.
Oh my God.
I was never afraid of the numbers side.
Correct.
So quant and DLR, I think both sections are at 97 plus percentile.
Sure.
It's the verbal section that I screwed up.
That's
and
common.
I have a degree in I have an English literature degree, so it hurt even more.
I can imagine.
Yes, so that happened, and then I was like, okay, fine, it's okay. I'll just go back next year, and also with my age, because the first time I gave CAT, I was 26, so I knew that the clock was running because. Given the way a large section of the B schools in this country operate, at 26, you're practically not their ideal preference. So I was going to apply at 27. So I knew it was going to be my last year. Gave CAT, scored well this time, 98.4.
Okay.
I'd given GMAT at the same time. I had a 720 in GMAT. Initially, I think I wasn't really looking forward to CAT as much. I think I had set up my mind that I was planning to go outside of India. A few things changed in my personal life. I lost someone during COVID.
I'm so sorry.
That's perfectly fine. And I had to all of a sudden plan my life wherein I could be close to my family. And I'm from Delhi itself, so born and brought up in the city. So I was always looking for options that were in close proximity. And at that point of time, I remember my options being, okay, you're either looking at MDI because I needed to be around my house.
Right.
Or I'm looking at, and Masters Union became a very, very relevant option for me at that point in time because I'd been introduced to it in the past also. So looked at it again, everything seemed great, and gave a couple of interviews at some B schools as well. For MDI, a funny thing that happened is that you could only apply with one of the exams, and I already had a GMAT score. So I was like, oh, this is safe. How could they not shortlist me at 720? But I had a low IR score, so they were not clear about their admission intake criteria. And IR, most B schools don't really care about. So I didn't even get a shortlist at MDI with a GMAT score of 720. If I'd applied through CAT, I would have gotten that.
Sure.
So Masters Union became more and more of an apparent choice at that point of time. And I think I was also very much convinced because at the same time I shortlisted from Iim-a also based on my CAT score. And after I had come for the first mixer, which happened with Pratham and Wine Company, I think it was just set in that manner because I had the opportunity to hang around with some of the people that I was going to spend the next 1 year with. And it just, I think mentally I was convinced that, you know what, I just want to come here now. Because it seems like a good bunch of people. I'd met some of the people that I'd met there, Soumya and a couple of others. I still consider them to be my closest friends. And that's really how Masters Union came about for me. And yeah, no regrets. And I was delighted to take up this opportunity. Learned a lot this last 1 year. And I guess things just find a way to make, work.
Yeah, no, very true. I'm glad that, you attended that mix. And your class was a fairly large, cohort of class.
163.
163. That's a lot of, people to even learn from and network from because then, you're finding people who are different from you, are same as you. So you're finding those cohorts of, people within the larger cohort.
Yes.
Fantastic. So, Prabhu, talk to me about your own, journey within Masters Union in terms of what are some highlights, what are some lowlights, what are things that you feel you've taken from here and you will continue to sort of build on it in your career, in your path, so going forward?
No, absolutely. I think, for me personally, where I was in life, I'd been, for a vast majority of my career, I'd been managing my own digital marketing agency. And that was practically the bulk of my experience.
Right.
But in the back of my mind, I think that's something most entrepreneurs have. I also suffered from an imposter syndrome.
Okay.
And it just felt like, something was lacking. So when I came to this place for the first time, I was severely underconfident.
Okay.
I felt like I was relying on other people's validation to somehow think what I wanted to think about myself. That, And it put me in that position wherein, for me, every opportunity, I think for the first 2 terms at Masters Union was just to win everybody's love and trust. That, know what, let me go out there and let me prove myself. And yeah, I think the highlight for me definitely is just the confidence that I gained back. Okay, because when I came here, I thought it was a skill that I needed to work on. And I had an opportunity to interact with so many CXOs and so many of my batchmates as well. And I realized it was all right here. It was the confidence that I'd lost in my own abilities. And I think once that clicked for me, it was I think a much more transformational journey from there on. Term 3 onwards, I wasn't really looking to prove a point. I was just so content with myself. I think for that, I'll always be grateful to the place, for giving me that confidence back, which I think I'd lost around 2020. I'd started to question myself a lot, some of my decisions. And yeah, I think most B schools, at the end of the day, what they're supposed to do is give you a framework for learning. It's not really the skills that you acquire within that 1-2 year period. It's just for you to be aware of the possibilities.
Right.
And now that I had all this information at my disposal, I could charter out what the next 5-7 years of my life need to look like.
Right.
So maybe I don't fully understand product management yet, but I understood all of the broad things within product management, and I understand just enough. And if I need to work on this even further, all of those things, like the entire blueprint has been laid out in front of me.
Right.
So I think that was really, really grateful. There were a couple of subjects I think that left a great mark on me as well. I think some of the highlights would definitely be the professors. Of course, Professor Bhupesh and Professor Vipin. I've told him repeatedly as well how much I enjoyed his classes.
Yeah.
Professor Shivani Pethe, and I'm actually glad to say now Dr. Shivani Pethe as well. And I think she was also very, very incremental very instrumental in my learning
Right.
at the campus. She made me read like a 700-page book. And it was a huge book. It was A4 size pages for an extra credit assignment.
Oh my God.
And it turns out that I didn't even need that extra credit because I already scored an A+ in that subject. But I was still so glad that, those kind of opportunities came my way.
Right.
That I got challenged and I got, all of these opportunities to learn. So these were definitely the highlights. I think lowlights, possibly not many. I think the one real rejection I had on campus from one organization, I think that was the only bit that hurt, that really put me in that mindset that, what went wrong? Why did this didn't work out? But again, you can sulk over it. I was in that frame of mind, I think, for a couple of days, and I was like, okay, fine, just get back up, learn from this, and move on. You can't keep going into that into that sulking mode all the time. You can't waste another 2-3 weeks being in that mindset. So yeah, those would be I would say the highlights and possibly the one low light.
So just double clicking on some of the things that you said, what's very interesting for me, not knowing your story in terms of, how you built your confidence back, because I think my interaction with you peaked in the last maybe 5-6 months, 7 months. And to me, you are someone who is like the chosen leader for the cohort, for even the students' subsequent batches and all, where people really look up to you in terms of, okay, like it's almost like people are looking for your validation in terms of, Acha, Prabhu kya soch raha hai? Like, is this making sense? So you're that sounding board. And for me, that is leadership, for people to come up to you and be taking your opinion so seriously, where they think that, if Prabhu is saying this, then it actually makes sense. So that journey from feeling the need for that validation to actually being the sounding board for so many of your cohorts. So that's fantastic.
That's really triggered in my experience also, because why I'm so grateful to these people is because they ended up helping me get my confidence back.
I'm sure, yeah.
So for me, as a way of extending my gratitude, I was like, if I can help them in their journeys in any way, I'd be happy to do that.
Because it experienced the other side of it, and it sucks to not be confident, right? And what I love, what you said is that it's that constant push where someone's just pushing you to do better, because there's always a better self, and there's always this sense of that stop competing with others outside.
Absolutely.
Because you can truly be the best version of yourself and not of someone else, right?
Absolutely.
So I think having that growth mindset getting instilled through your education, through your cohort, that I think could be a very meaningful skill for your lifetime.
Absolutely. And that's the reason why I say that the B-School experience is so much more than just what goes on inside the classroom, right? Like it's the network that you build. It's the peers as well. I think for a lot of people, and I think including myself, I've been working since the age of 19.
Oh, wow.
So I've not really had a break for about 8 years. Okay, I've been doing something or the other. There were financial challenges in the household as well. So, had the responsibility of taking care of certain things for my family as well. So this 1 year was just about taking a step back, and and you gotta invest in your learning. You gotta. Even if it's not just for the learning standpoint, I think as humans we all need that break. The 70-hour work week is something that might work for some,
right?
And it might have worked in a different generation. But I think for my generation per se, you really need to have that balance. And that way, I think Masters in was the perfect opportunity for me. Just take a break, work on yourself, and then you are much more upgraded version of yourself, which could not have happened on the linear trajectory that I was on. So yeah, definitely, I think it just all works out.
And when Pratham, me and some of the leadership team, we speak about what is it that we really are trying to do. For us, we go back to, how we want our students to shift orbits, not just while at Masters Union, but throughout their journey. Because it's a mindset, right? It's not a one-year thing. Yeah. You could be out of Masters Union. There's an artificial environment that we've created where there's so many CXOs who are coming and mentoring you. There are guest sessions, there are these visiting faculty, there are these PhD professors. Yeah. But you have to find a way to take all of that and keep at it for long, long after you've gone.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm like just very happy to hear the story that you just...
learning is always going to be extended. Like, so my plan after this is to go and attend Professor Vipin's class. Like I knew that. So that's why I gave you guys Monday for this podcast. Because I wanted to make sure that I knew that Professor Vipin's going to be taking a class post-lunch. So the moment this ends, I'm going to be going and sitting back in the classroom. It's something that I always enjoyed. I think for me, the classroom experience was something that I always looked up to. I've always been very passionate about academics. And for me, this was the perfect blend of having academics and then for someone like myself who chases a lot of practical learning and as a product of the startup culture itself, it's just a very good hybrid of those two things. And it's a great place, I think, for those people specifically who want that classroom learning experience as well, but something a little bit more than that.
Right.
Just don't want to be reading a book for 12 months or 24 months and having that as your only source of learning.
And it's just reminding me of one thing, Prabhu, that you mentioned previously, that, you also interviewed in Iim-a and, you had, I'm sure with the kind of CAT percentile, you would have had a lot of options. Yep. And while you had location as a constraint, what were the people around you saying to you at that time in terms of choosing Masters Union? Like, what were things that you were actually afraid of?
So my family honestly trusts me a lot. So my family has been to the campus once. They've never even been to the hostel. So my family was very clear. I was going to pay my fees and whatever the program fees was going to be, I was going to bear the cost of that. So I told them that this is my decision, and I think there's a certain amount of trust over there. Of course, I think from my sibling side, my cousin brother, who's also from, I think, XLRI, he was not able to understand this decision one bit. He just kept coming back to me, why? And I was like, it's okay, you won't understand maybe. Maybe I'll be in a better position to explain you, 2-3 years down the line. So there was some resistance from those. But at the end of the day, honestly, I'll tell you at what point of time it clicked for me. So I have a somewhat of a journey which is non-linear, because in my third year of college, my undergrad, I was originally studying economics. I had an opportunity to start a business, and I thought that I'll take an academic break. So I started that, and it worked out well, and I continued that for 7 years, and I always thought I'll come back to it. But economics is one of those disciplines wherein you can't just come back to it, because if you're going to come back for third year economics, you need to understand second year economics very well. And that's not a challenge I had anticipated. So I never finished that. I ended up doing a degree in something else. So a very non-linear journey. And I realized that, again, I've interviewed at a lot of B schools as well, like I said. So every time I would find myself in a situation where I'll have to explain that. And it put me in a bit of discomfort, because I felt like, of course it's been a different journey, but it's worked out, right? Like, why don't you look at, what I was supposed to go from A to B, but instead I went to A to C to B, but I'm still here by the criterias and everything that you've set. But it felt like everybody was looking for a reason to reject me. Like the first thing that I did after coming out from my IIM Ahmedabad interview, I came out, I still remember it was in Gurgaon itself, and I sat in Starbucks, wrote down the entire transcript, and I put it on a WhatsApp message. I sent it to one of my mentors. And I was like, if this doesn't get me through, nothing will. Because to this day, I say that's the best interview I've ever given in my life. If there were 15 questions I were asked, I was able to answer 14 and a half to perfect clarity. And it didn't work out. And I was like, okay, that doesn't really matter. But then with Masters in what was different was what felt like the person at the other end was not looking for a reason to reject me. They were just looking for that one moment of spark. So it was such a different mindset, because I'm not going to judge you over your journey. I'm just going to see, do you have that one spark that is going to give me a reason to bring you in?
It's like we're not sitting with a checklist that, okay, if this does not tick, then it's fine. Because what you want is a person who's holistically, well-rounded. And if you put that person in the Masters Union pedagogy and journey, he will just do well.
Precisely.
That's probably the difference.
And once I realized that, I had that connection. I was like, fine, I've got to take the place a lot more seriously now. I think this just got bumped up in my list, because all of a sudden somebody was not making me feel guilty about a certain decision I'd taken in 2016 that I also don't regret. I have zero regrets about it, because I feel like if I would have completed my degree and if I would have gone by the book, I'm sitting right now here. I'm very content. I'm very happy with myself, with the choices that I've made. Maybe things would have been different. It's the classic, the road not taken.
Of course.
But I don't have any guarantees over that. So the journey that I did take, I'm happy with that. Why would somebody want to make me feel guilty about my choices going all the way back 6 years, 7 years in the past? So the fact that this place didn't make me feel that this place was welcoming and encouraging of the different path that I'd taken, and still wanted me in, I think was that pivotal moment that, yes, this is it. This is where I'm going to come for the next 1 year.
And the most beautiful thing is that a lot of our successful CEOs and the celebrated founders, etc., are the ones who actually took that road that is less traveled and unconventional, and then they were okay with the choices that they made at the end of it, which to me is beautiful. Great. So let's shift gears a little bit, and I would love to touch upon your experience in terms of placements. We do placements a little bit differently here.
Yeah.
We don't have as much of day 0, day 1, etc. because we feel that it optimizes for the company than for our students, etc. What was your take on the entire placement journey?
I think I said that it can have. So there's two possibilities that can really come out, okay? And that's why I say you have to be mentally very, very strong. The beautiful aspect is that you can make mistakes, you can learn from those mistakes, and you can keep coming back again and again and again. There's an individual in my cohort who managed to sit in quite a lot of interviews, okay? But for them, what worked out was the nth interview, okay? And it was the journey of having gone through all of those mistakes and still knowing that, there's something for you to look forward to. And this learning, it's happened over 7 months for that individual, right? From the time that their first interview happened to the one that ended up converting. In a day 0, day 1, day 2 system, I feel like it's designed in line with CAT itself. Just like I say, CAT is a very unforgiving exam because you make a mistake, you have to pay for it for next 1 year.
Right.
I think with a day 0, day 1, day 2 process as well, it's 3 days. You could fall sick, okay? You could be not fully prepared. You could be somebody who's possibly there at a skill level but is not feeling confident, is getting intimidated in that environment.
Right.
And it can have severe consequences on your career, right? But the beauty of the process here is, February you had an interview and you got a feedback from the team, XYZ person, let's say Ayush, you're not ready. Okay, great. March it happened again, April it happened again. So even the person feels like somebody's invested in their success. It's not like just being told, sorry, you're not good enough. But it's a realization, okay, here's the mistake that you've made. This is how we can fix it. Let's go back and work on this and come back in 2 weeks' time or in 3 weeks' time for your next interview.
Correct.
Okay, and then see if the next organization works for you or not. Okay, and it's having that flexibility, I think, that really works from a student side. Of course, I still believe that, if the person on this side is not really confident, is getting intimidated by the whole process, because again, having those rejections can also have, it can take a toll on you. But it's the way you approach it. I think with all the conversations that I had with my batchmates as well, who possibly were on this side. I mean, you could be somebody like Priyanush from my batch. First shortlist, first company, first interview, done, dusted, out. Okay, or you could be like somebody else, right? So it's feeling comfortable in your own skin and just being like, I'm going to look at the positive side.
Right.
I'm not going to let this affect me, this failure affect me. And it's having the opportunity to learn and grow, I think, over those 7-8 months, as many interviews as you have. Of course, not 7-8 months for everyone, but 3 or 4 months for everyone.
Correct.
And really getting that right feedback. And that feedback is not coming in, by the way, from a student.
Right.
Okay, it's coming in from a set
External,
of professionals.
right, yes.
Okay, because that's the golden nugget that I feel like enough people don't talk about when it comes to Mastercene, is that the placement team is not managed by a bunch of students. I mean, we've all heard horror stories of placement cells across colleges, and over here, I think that was the best part. There is a placement cell, but its job is to work with the professional team that's been put into place. They are not having any decision making, any say in the decision making per se.
Right. And there's nothing motivating them to go against a student or the other. It's like a very fair, transparent process.
Of course, because like I said, there's the individual who's there managing and running this entire team. Their interest is to look after the batch. Their interest is not to look after, that one student who's my friend, okay, or myself first, if I'm in the placement team. So I think that's really the best part of the college is that you can trust the process at any point of time to be fair and transparent. You can go back. So you know that the rejection that you've gotten is not coming in because somebody else has said something about you. It's because genuinely it did not work out. Or if you've gotten that offer as well, you didn't cut any corners to get it. You got it in a fair setting, in a fair environment. You had a fair shot, much like everyone else, and just the right person at the right time for that organization. So I think, from that perspective, definitely, I think something that has one less thing for a student to worry about.
Right. I can imagine that being very stressful because just recently I was hearing stories of how a company came and the rest of the batch didn't even know about it, and then some of the students from PlaceCom got
it's very interesting
placed. So I was like, how does that even work out? That is so unfair.
Yeah, it's very interesting you mentioned, because when I was deciding which place to go to as well, this was also one of my factors, because I realized that because of my broken profile, as to how they termed it, it's a broken profile. Actually, somebody mentioned it as well.
Wow.
I won't name the institution. But they said yours is a broken profile. And I was like, okay, fine. And I realized they're going to give me the same excuse during placement time as well. Okay, they're going to tell me the same
They're
things.
going to rub it in your face that, this is why the campus has not been able to help you.
Exactly, because there are set filters in place for even shortlisting of CVs to then be shared with the, with the company that's visiting campus. And I'm not even going to survive the filters. Okay. It's like I say, like there's somebody at the door, okay, who's not even giving you the chance to enter, right? That having just access to that fair opportunity, I'm in this room with you, and then what happens is in my own, that's in my own destiny. That's all of that is in my own control.
Right.
Okay, I can control that outcome. But somebody else denying me the opportunity to even enter the room is something that I felt that it's going to always leave a sour taste in my mouth. So I think that way, as long as, like I said, the students don't have to worry about that, but they can just be sincere in their preparation.
Right.
The outcome obviously reflects the efforts that they've put in.
No, that's. I think that's a very valid and fair point. Something that we truly try at our end to be as transparent and just bring in fair opportunities for all of us. So, Prabhu, in terms of, you're someone who, of course, had some campus offers also, and then, you bagged this insanely crazy, incredible off-campus offer as well. You're one of the highest offer seekers from the campus in terms of your off-campus offer. So tell us about that journey, how did you prepare for it? How did you think that you still want to apply off-campus? A lot of people just feel very comfortable with the offer that comes to the campus, and then they almost like pause applying, etc. So tell me what was going on in your head when you were applying for these companies.
So I was fortunate enough to get an offer very early in the placement process. I think I had an offer in February. I still felt like I could do better. Okay.
What made you feel that?
I think also it's an opportunity cost conundrum as well, because I did realize that what I was already making. So one of the things that I was fortunate enough to do during my MBA as well, I was actively consulting the same company that I ended up joining after my MBA. And I was, again, getting a very handsome amount during that time as well. And that was something that was very important to me as well, that during my MBA, I wanna have an active source of passive income.
Correct.
Not passive per se. Shouldn't use the word passive income, but have some money coming in for me as well. So I realized that from a financial standpoint, I could always do better, but that wasn't the only motivation. I think I just didn't want my search to get over that quickly.
I see.
So I was like, okay, fine. This is what the campus has gotten me. It's a great offer. Again, no qualms about it. Let me still go out there and see what I can pursue. And so the mindset was always there that, let's give myself till end of April, and whatever I have by then is when I'll take a decision based on all of the opportunities that were available to me. And even the company that gave me an offer on campus was very nice and supportive. They understood. I had a conversation with them. Can we work on the money?
Right.
And they said, this is the best, but we can always review it, once you join, a couple of months down the line. I said, great. Can you give me some time then? Because I don't want to take an offer thinking that, I'm not fully convinced.
Right.
Because I feel like somehow it's also going to reflect in my work at a very subconscious level. Even if I'm not deliberately thinking about it, the first inconvenience I truly face, I keep thinking, oh, these guys didn't even help me on the money side. Why are they making my life even tougher? So the founder was very adjusting, and he was like, perfectly fine. I don't want you to come in here just because you feel like this is an option that's trapped you.
Right.
Go out till April, and if you feel like you still want to come in here with the terms being as it is, we're perfectly fine. So, okay.
I think that's a lot of maturity on the hiring side also, and then a lot of maturity on your side to be able to have that complex discussion in a manner where you're not hampering your relationship with either of the parties, and you're being transparent. Exactly. I wouldn't be surprised. Surprised.
So
that's what is beautiful, right? To be able to maturely communicate on both sides that this is how I'm thinking. And I think you're right, because if you end up taking something where your heart's not at, or you're feeling that I could do significantly better, if not today, maybe in 6 months you would still be out, and it's not going to still help anyone.
Absolutely. So that was the conversation with him. And then during that time, I was speaking with a couple of organizations and with Ampm as well. The conversation at that point of time was ongoing since January itself.
Right.
The negotiations kept ongoing and ongoing. And then finally, I think there was a point around, mid-March, or I think towards the last week of March, that I think we'd reached a point where both sides were completely aligned that this is a great opportunity for me. I think not just from a monetary standpoint. Of course, everybody who comes to me and I don't know why it's a thing on campus, but everybody asks me about how much money I'm making. But I think more than the monetary component as well, what I realized was this was a great opportunity for me to work within a management team. Okay, within a leadership team, have a list, have a great team that I can drive, towards the goals that we're setting out, and. It just felt like a good fit from a position standpoint, from a pay standpoint, and some of the other things as well. Again, having close proximity to my family, I wanted to make sure that I still have my parents, my sister, my nephew, everybody in the same place. So just all the boxes got ticked, and again, the campus was also very accommodating. And the funny thing, I think it was Anurag from your team who had actually coordinated my on-campus offer. So I called him and I said, "Okay, Anurag, this has happened. This thing." He's like, "Okay, great. Let me inform Mehak." So he informed Mehak. And then he calls me one few minutes later. He's like, "Did I hear the amount right?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's true." He's like, "Okay, can you just send it again on WhatsApp? Because I don't want to make sure I communicated wrong." I said, "Yeah." And that happened. And then he reached out to the company that I had an on-campus offer from, because I was going to make that effort myself.
Right.
I'm not naming the company.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So the founder then called me. And then he was so happy. I think he was happier for me than some of my own batchmates.
I can imagine.
I was like, okay, this is really, really
but
mature.
That's the kind of exactly. That's the kind of leadership that I'm sure you felt that at least if not working for him, he can be a great mentor. He can be a great buddy for you for subsequent years.
We're still in touch, and I think he said something towards the end as well when we were chatting up. He was like, Prabhu, these things just they find a way to make it work.
Right.
I'm sure that if it's written in the stars, you and I will find a way to work again.
Right.
But I'm really, really happy for you. Because at the end of the day, this is a much better opportunity for you. It was a great role as well. It was an Iim-a role that I'd sourced from campus. So very much in line with what I wanted as well. But just the maturity on the founder and how accommodating he was for me.
Right.
It's very rare as well to be in that position. I guess I was truly blessed to be in that situation, and it just all worked out very well.
But I think that also goes back to what you were saying about the day 0, day 1, day 2, because I can imagine if it was that 0, 1, 2 sort of rigorous, choose here and now, else this is it. I don't think that flexibility of going back and forth, having those 2 months to negotiate, and then finding that perfect offer, that really, why should you need to compromise on your family life or on your personal life or on the financial front or on the role front when you are talented and you should have that choice?
Exactly. And that's again going back to the same thing. I don't want to sound like I'm bragging about the college, but I think the fact that for a lot of people on campus as well, the team was accommodating of all of these constraints, because I wasn't the only one. There were others like me as well who were in that situation, who had certain family situations or other things. Some of the people in my batch were married. So they had other things as well to take care of. And even the team that was having a chat with these organizations on the other side were trying to make them understand. Because again, like I said, it's not a student.
Correct.
The company might just be like, okay, fine, I'm not talking to a 23-year-old trying to tell me about how their batchmate has some constraints.
Right.
But to be able to effectively empathize and communicate some of these factors, I think most organizations are accommodating today. The way we work, the way we are hiring as well, it's changed a lot in the last decade. And companies are happy to extend you that courtesy as long as you're honest and transparent with them.
Right.
And that's one of the main things that I stuck to during those 4 months as well. I was going to extend that courtesy. I was going to be completely honest and transparent with everybody that I was talking to at that point of time, not leaving anyone in the dark.
I think the Chinese whisper is what people mind the most, that, you were telling me you're joining tomorrow, and then one day before
We've all been there.
We've all been there. And it sucks when somebody else does that to you. I think that's where it leaves a bitter taste, like you said. So Prabhu, you mentioned that, with the place where you finally got the offer that you did, and I know it's an incredible offer. It was almost, I think it was more than double of your previous offer from campus.
Yeah.
So
more than that.
More than that. That's what I remember. That's why probably Anurag asked to double check at that point. But how did you get that consulting project? And then how did that, do you think that, because I can imagine if someone's paying you the amount that they did finally, to build that trust in just an interview is much harder versus if you've consulted someone for say X number of weeks, months, etc. There's a much more, he's seen your work, you've seen their team work, and there's much more collaboration there. So how did you source that project, etc.?
Okay, I'll actually connect that to somebody else as well who did something
Sure.
similar on campus as well. So I first had the chance to meet the folks at Ampm back in September 2021. So
Okay.
the brand was also going through a very pivotal point at that point because the pandemic had completely changed the business.
Right.
Before the pandemic, these guys were at, I think, some 50 odd stores across the country. And after the second wave, that shut down effectively 45 of those stores.
Wow.
So they wanted to change the way the complete brand experience was. And that's why 3 people were hired in, the senior consultant and the 2 of us. So for the first 4-5 months, my job was basically to stay quiet in all the meetings. Okay. And I think it was only till January that I think the organization wanted to move on from the senior consultant and the other person. And January is a pivotal, is a very critical time for the organization because they have something called an end of season sale.
I'm sure.
During that point of time. And I was leading that particular activity, and we set in a company-wide record during those 10-15 days. So it built a lot of trust. And every day we would have a call.
Right.
And I think we were all working from home at that point in time. There was a constraint around, I think it was before the second wave of COVID. So we would get on a call at 11 in the morning. They'd ask me, Prabhu, what would be the projections for next day? I'd say a number, and the senior consultant would say a number, and it was always closer to me. So it got to a point where they started to felt that there was a bit more trust.
Right.
And then around February, March is when they officially asked me to, join the organization. And I was very clear, even though I'd done well for the company till that point of time, I knew that I wanted to go for my MBA anyhow. So I was not going to sacrifice this. I communicated to them that, doing my master's is something that's very, very important to me. I think I'm going to go ahead with that. But I'm happy to work with you guys because I don't want to leave what we've built. Okay.
Correct.
And it was still at a very inception stage. I think the numbers were very hardly, much at that point of time, considering what we're doing now.
I'm sure.
As a brand. And this one last year, it worked out so well for them because even while I was doing my MBA and I was supposed to coordinate everything with the team back in the office, I would typically go there 1 day a week. And that would be every Wednesday. And just the amount of growth that had happened during this 1 year, it had set things to a point where the organization was not looking beyond me because they'd burned their hands enough times. So they knew that they wanted to find a way to get me into the picture. And that obviously gave me some leverage as well.
Sure.
So when I was having a conversation and we were negotiating our terms as well, I wanted it to be fair. I wanted it to reflect, what I'd done for the organization till that point of time and what I intended to do as well. And even this year, we were just discussing, I think that's a stat I can share. So what we had done in the last financial year in terms of top line, so for the online business, which I effectively lead, we'd crossed that figure in the 7 months.
Oh my God.
This year.
So that's like, you can expect to double.
We're doubling.
Yeah.
We're doubling. So we're going to grow by 100% this year. And that's the thing, because the organization was on a such good growth trajectory that it just worked out very well for me. And it allowed me to, of course, have a conversation with them on the commercial front and on the role front as well. Having the ability to even decide my own designation. I think all of that worked out really well. So, but I'll draw in a parallel, like I said. So I think a good example I'll take in here is Sahil Kumras. So Sahil, who got a VC role from campus, first met the individual on campus for just an engagement. Okay.
We had done some VC mixer or something. I think that's where he met.
And he shot it, and he took his opportunity. He went after it, had a conversation, and the terms that he got was, I don't think it was a paid internship. It was an unpaid internship for about 2-3 months, and he was like, "I'm okay." Now, most people in his case would have said no.
Right.
We're not doing an unpaid internship. We're not taking that risk that late in the placement process. But Sahil was like, "You know what? I'm going to go for it."
Right.
Spend those 2 months in the organization. Demonstrated again what he was really capable of to the point which gave him such good leverage when he was negotiating his offer on campus. I think eventually the team was also coordinating on his behalf. I think it's just making very smart choices. I keep telling Sahil as well that I did not have the guts to do what he did.
And he was a CA. He would have easily gotten a campus placement in terms of
he was getting shortlisted left, right, and center.
Exactly.
Great profile.
And I felt the confidence that he had. He interacted with those people on campus. And then when I would check with him, he's like, Mehak, I know baki jagah to hui jayega. but this is something that is worth, like, and this is what I've seen typically in US also, where if someone's really trying to pivot into a massively different role than where they come from, you will really have to persuade the person why should they take you versus someone who already has experience in that domain, right? And that's where Sahil went all in and
it's
converted
the
it.
commitment. It's the commitment. You demonstrated how good you are.
Yes.
And Sahil, by the way, I think for those who are watching the podcast as well, his is a profile that a lot of people can relate to. CA,
Correct.
by the way, it's not like he cleared his CA on the first attempt. Oh, he did clear his CA on the first attempt. Sorry about that. Apologies, Sahil. But great scores in his CA as well. Went on to work for KPMG, if I'm not wrong.
Like one of the big fours. I
one of the
can't
big
recall
fours. Yeah, I think it was KPMG. Worked there for about 2-3 years and then came here. If I take that profile and if I effectively look out there, I'm pretty sure there would be about 10,000, 15,000 people out there who would have had similar experiences over the last 2-3 years. But how many of those people today, if they were to go and interview at a VC firm, would even get the opportunity to interview?
I agree.
And that's the difference, because even for Sahil as well, this was not like that. This is a company that's come on campus that effectively recruiting. He saw the opportunity that, this is someplace I can work. And because the campus is not discouraging you, it's effectively encouraging you to go the global way. Okay, there's no repercussions or anything of that nature. So for him to feel like, if I make this work, they're only going to come back and help me. The team is going to be accommodating.
And if it doesn't work out, then also the team's going to help you.
Exactly.
So there's a fallback option either ways.
Exactly. So I think having that trust in the system, but then also the courage at the same time to take that risk.
To think differently and...
Exactly. I envy his life. I keep telling him as well, I envy your life. I mean, I would not have done that in May. Okay, I would not have done, I think it was around the month of May when his internship started. I was like, I could not think of taking a risk. And this is an individual who, by the way, I've seen his journey over the 12 months as well in Masters Union. He was not this person at the beginning, okay? Yeah. This is a guy who was the treasurer of the college, who had to practice his speech about 10-15 times just to go on stage to be able to talk for 3 minutes. And then going to the point where he's effectively negotiating terms with a VC fund as to what percentage of carry he wants, okay? How much in fixed pay does he want? And not budging because he realized his worth. I think, again, I go back to saying, I think for him as well, it was more of a confidence play.
Right.
He really grew in these 12 months that he spent on campus. So it works out. I think if you're looking for higher leverage from a pay standpoint, you need to be in a position to understand that it's not going to happen on the back of just a 3-interview exercise or something. I think if and Masters Union, that certainly happens, that you have the opportunity to intern, you have the opportunity to truly show what you can do, then go back to the drawing board. Because most people don't realize that at the final stages of the process, of the interview process, the company is more vulnerable than the candidate.
Exactly, because they're like,
because they've invested their time.
Somebody has taken the handover, he's doing it so well. Now, if this person goes, I'll have to find another person. That's like 2-3 months gone. Yeah. Then I have to train that person.
Exactly.
And then onboard, etc. And it may still not work out where you're again on square one after like 5 months.
So the balance of power is more towards, it's more skewed towards the candidate. But the candidate is the one who's severely underconfident. Goes out and lets the organization have that leverage. And then, of course, you end up negotiating, and then it's something that's more favorable for the organization. So I think it's negotiations at the end of the day. I think it's just psychology 101. You need to know where you are and just be very much, I think, understanding what others' motivations are.
It's like the BATNA concept, right? That you have to understand what are your best alternative, what are their best alternative, and how can you together increase the pie in some way.
It's a transaction. It's a transaction at the end of the day. You're getting something out of it. The individual at the other end is getting something out of it. Just know your leverage and show restraint. Okay, don't be one of those, I'm not going to budge this thing. You got to sense the room, and I think if you do have that ability, it certainly pays off.
Of course, no, absolutely. And this time as we speak, and we had live projects during your cohort also, but we saw those work so beautifully for people to get their hands onto some problem statement and work with a company. That this time we have almost 35 companies and almost 100 students who are doing consulting garage sort of live projects with multiple companies. And the hope is that, again, to be able to demonstrate by the end of those 2-3 months that, yes, I am adding value. And both of them might choose not to go ahead, or both of them might choose that this is perfect for me. But it gives you that data point that, is this the right career and company for me? And even for people who pivot, my advice is that, just take some kind of project in that domain for some time for you to really make sure that is this what I want to do? Because there is no crystal balling, right? There's no way for you to know without being a product manager whether you will like being a product manager or not, or whether you will like being EIR or whatever that role could be.
And again, these are, I think for those watching as well, these are not just words that are coming in. It's like I can name examples.
Right.
Somebody like a Shankanila Pal Chaudhary, okay, coming in from Amity University with a degree in journalism, okay, has pivoted to consulting.
Right.
Okay. But what really worked as well, I think in her case as well, doing those live projects. She did a live project with Barcode India.
Correct.
She did a live project, I think, with another insurance industry player, and then one more with a SaaS place. So the CV at that point of time was rock solid. The experience that you've gained on the back of this, by the way, a fresher on top of all of that, okay?
Right.
And you want a consulting role, cracked a consulting role. And the best part was that the consulting role that she cracked was one wherein the company came and said, you know what, this is the brief. You have to make a deck, and we're going to shortlist only on the basis of deck. We're not going to hire like MBBs wherein we look at your CVs and then eliminate some people straight off the bat. So she competed in a group of people where people had like 3-4 years of work ex, but it was her work that really shone through. And that was again on the back of some of the more recent projects she had done. And it worked out so beautifully because she did a live project with Barcode India. Barcode India and her could not find alignment. So Barcode India came back and hired somebody else from our cohort, Shivam Paliwal.
Right.
So it just works out so beautifully in the end, right? Like for somebody else who wasn't even part of the initial conversation in Barcode, but the company had more faith in the college by that point of time because it had seen a record of excellence from certain people. And that built the trust. So I just feel like we're at that point as an organization as well, where so many companies out there are recognizing the potential in the candidates, and it just, I think our pool of recruiters just keeps growing year on year, and it's a great sight to see.
No, I'm glad that as students you're seeing that delta in terms of the brands that are coming to the campus, etc. And it's always very rewarding for us when our students are happy, because ultimately all of this is for you all, right?
Absolutely.
So my last question for you, Prabhu, is that. And I know you've had a bit of an unconventional journey, not just before Masters Union, but even within Masters Union. But maybe, talk to us about your cohort's experience in terms of what are some of these academic, non-academic, placement prep related things that might have actually helped you crack those roles. Because, getting the kind of delta, I think, and I'll have to look at the numbers when they come for the entire cohort, but getting that 3-4 times your previous salary delta, I don't think that's easy, right? Like what is it that is happening in those 14, 15, 16 months that you are able to command the delta? So what are things that you feel help with that polish?
Oh, great. So actually it's a very funny thing you mentioned that as well, because for a lot of people, I remember that people think that when companies come on campus, they're gonna, and I think this was a learning from an interview standpoint as well for a lot of people, that they'd written some casual points of things that they'd done during Masters, okay? And then they were sitting for interviews and they thought that, companies were going to ask them about their previous work ex. But an organization is not going to make you go from a 6 LPA or an 8 LPA to 25 LPA on the back of what you were doing pre-MBA. Exactly. So 80 to 90% of the interview was about what did you do for these 12 months? Because that's the premium I'm paying, okay? For what's really happened in these 12 months. And again, there were enough opportunities for people to take up some exciting projects. I think for me, one of the things that worked out really well, dropshipping was again something that was very much related to my past. So I think for me, it only created some value. But if I talk about, I think one of my very dear friends, Raj Rishi, and I was having a conversation with him about, how much dropshipping helped. He was like, you have no idea how much it helped me. I'm coming from a hardcore product background, okay, in a HR tech organization. I never had the opportunity to manage a P&L for a small, D2C play. Correct. And I think there are so many of these opportunities that are ingrained within the curriculum itself that you don't need to go and actively seek out. Right. VIP being I think the crown jewel on top of all of this. I think it's the fact that it's mandatory for students till a certain point, even for those who are actively chasing placements. The idea is that you build that mindset so that you're not effectively looking to start up right now, but maybe that opportunity comes 2 years down the line. But how do you really assess it's a good opportunity? Right. So what you've gotten is a template that this is how you verify. And again, I think just understanding that structure, how well it changed how I approach some of these problem statements, or how I looked at some of these startups out there. It allowed me to look at them in a more organized manner. And then my opinions are not just opinions, but they're backed by substance and, some analysis that I've done now that I'm more cognizant of how to really look at, some of the businesses out there and whether they really have as much merit or not. So VIP was I think a great learning opportunity. It's for me, I think if someone asks me top 3 experiences, I'd put VIP straight at the top. Consulting challenge as well. I always say this because people come to a B school and FOMO kicks in within the first 2 months.
Of course.
Everybody wants to do consulting. Everybody wants to do product management. You have no idea the amount of calls I've had with cohort 4 where I tell them, "Ho gaya? Are you done with your consulting? Okay. Can we now talk about the real options that you want to pursue in life, or are you still falling for that charm?" Because it's one of those things. You come to a campus. Even I fell for that. Like the first 2 months, I was thinking, oh, you know what? Consulting is not a bad domain. Like I can
be a great consultant.
Yeah, I can be a great consultant. I've done it in my previous roles from a marketing and growth standpoint. So why not take it up? It was actually Juhi only. I was mentioning about her before the podcast. Juhi was the one who got on a call with me and said, just because you have the ability to do it and you can be good at it doesn't mean you have to do it. Okay. Realize that you are starting from zero again at the age of 27. Are you okay with that? And then again, there were more conversations as well. So I think just access to these people and the way these challenges were designed as well, they made you realize very, very clearly what is it that you really wanted to do and help you gain that insight in a much faster time. Okay. Rather than waiting till February, March and still thinking, oh, do I want to pursue a sales role? Do I want to go back to marketing? Do I actually want to pivot or not? I think for those who keep feeling lost, and that's a theme that happens as well, I think across a lot of colleges. And even for us as well, I think for some people not being sure, I think these outclass challenges, I think really played a big role. For me as well, I think I came in here with a thought with a mindset to experiment. So I took up a lot of finance courses. There were some masters who came on campus, and I keep saying this every time we have an opportunity to bring Sarthak Ahuja back. Let's keep bringing him back. And credits to the management, because I remember he took a course at Masters Union and the course was so good. I ended up emailing Mehak and team that can we bring him back? We'll create a subject.
I remember that email.
We'll create a subject. We'll decide the curriculum. Just bring him back. And how many colleges would actually allow that? I mean, let's be serious. I mean, if I email even the dean of the college, okay, and say, you know what, can you bring this teacher back again because we really like him? And the college actually did ended up doing that. We had the opportunity to learn again from him. My job had actually started at that point of time. So I remember coming back over the weekends just to attend his classes. I think it's the accumulation of all these things. The fact that you don't have to choose between A or B, especially from an outclass standpoint. Having mandatory classes till term 3 from a core courses standpoint. And then being in a position where nobody's out there telling you that, you know what, this is not something that you can be good at, or this is not something that you should take up. Think more in this direction. I think just the flexibility to be out there and be comfortable in your own skin and take up whatever challenges you want. I keep saying this. It's okay if you don't understand the regression in those 2 months. It's okay. As long as you understand where to apply regression as a concept, okay, or as long as you understand any other concept as well, let's take it, even certain marketing concepts. It's your awareness of those things and having that blueprint for learning that's more important. It just puts you in a position where in, a few years down the line, if you even have to take that up, you have top of the mind recall and you understand how that thing functions. Even if you don't fully know how to do that regression analysis yourself. Again, still you should.
I think, and it's a very important point that you're touching, Prabhu, because sometimes students come back to me saying that, oh, why is this specific course made mandatory, or why should I be taking this, or, and I try to encourage them to think back on the day when they decided to do an MBA to become a more holistic, grounded leader and not rounded leader, instead of being just a specialist in one thing. And I still love the idea of you being a specialist in some things where, you are really the go-to person to lead a team in that specific domain, but also having a holistic idea of what else is happening. And that these classes, these, unique experiences, like you were saying, some workshops here and there, it suddenly makes you realize that, oh, I never thought about it this way, or I never even knew what this meant.
Exactly. Like for me, I think that was the best learning, because I came to Masters Union thinking that there are only 50 things out there and I know 20. So I'm here to learn 30 more. So I'm at a 40%. And by the end of the year, it was the realization that I've only gone from 20 to 40, but the list of things are no longer 50. It's 100.
Correct.
Okay. So it's the awareness of so many of those things out there that I had no idea only. And I keep having these conversations because typically more folks that come from marketing and sales backgrounds, they're like, we didn't even know what product management was. Like in some of the companies that we worked in,
Right.
we didn't even know there's a domain like product management. So, and that really triggers a response because then there's curiosity, you know what, even if I don't want to chase a career in it, I want to know a bit more about it.
Correct.
And
You want to be very current, you want to be cutting edge, you want to know what's out there.
exactly.
Like this year when AI became so hot in some way, we made sure that there are prompt engineering workshops that are happening so that the students not feeling lost that, okay, what else is happening in the world around us?
Yeah. I mean, when I remember the first time Masterson came out with the placement report, people were like, what are these chief of staff roles? Okay.
I
you guys
know.
are making up designations now. And I was like, okay, that's okay. I hear you. And now I see so many chief of staff roles, that are popping up on LinkedIn all
I mean,
the time.
somewhere I actually invented it because there are times, Prabhu, I'm not even kidding about this, where a founder or, maybe these traditional businesses that are managing 1,000 crore P&L and the founder does not have a smart person to just delegate. And, when I tell him that concept, he's like, oh my God, I need this guy like yesterday.
I actually pitched that to my CEO as well. I was like, you need, I think for one of the first projects I need to take up is hiring a chief of staff for you.
I'm sure.
Because things are so all over the place for you and she's
Exactly.
got so much on her plate.
Of course.
I think one of our batchmates as well, he's actually gone to an organization, Vamsi. SAIL is a big organization.
Precisely.
And, thousands of crores. And for him to take up a chief of staff role over there as well.
Right.
I know how unfamiliar people were. And people still come to Masters Union. Okay. Of course, if they've seen the placement report, they have some idea. But so many of the people that are coming in with that thought. Generalist roles were not something that we didn't even think that we want. But now that we're inside the system and we can see the charm of these roles, we most certainly want it.
Right.
I think that's the beauty of what this 1 year is supposed to be about. Beyond just people and everything, it's recognizing the possibilities out there that might have been a good fit for you that you just weren't even aware of till now. And now here's a chance for you to crack that role, and there's a whole support system in place to help you get there. From a skill standpoint, from an access to the opportunity itself standpoint, and
access to the network, just getting more and more people on campuses.
Precisely.
Like, I don't know how many people would have these mixers where you can actually just talk to anybody and just try to understand what is it that they're doing. I think that just opens up so many doors in itself.
It's the campus also. It's got a very startup-y vibe to it. I think people just come here as well and they get so comfortable that they're happy to share their learnings. They're happy to have that conversation. It doesn't even give you that kind of an impression that you're in a B school. Okay, you feel like you're in an office in a casual setting, and once you establish that comfort level, not just from the students but from those you're inviting on the outside as well, there's so many insights that we got. In fact, the country being founder, we were having a session with him happened right there in the classroom next door, NPS, and he shared so much with us during those I think 1.5 hours session that it was. I understood everything about the coffee business that I wanted to understand in India within those 1.5 hours. And he was happy to share a lot of things, I think, from an internal company milestone as well. I don't think perhaps if it was a formal setting that the founder would feel as comfortable. But here he was and he was like, you know what? This is just giving me a different vibe. I'm happy to talk as much as you guys want. And it was 90 minutes of, I think, some of the most powerful learnings that I have gotten over the entire year for that matter. So that's really what the experience is about. That's really what I think this 12-month program is about. It's so much more that you gain, like I said at the beginning, so much more than just the skills. Those skills you can acquire on a Udemy course as well.
I agree, actually.
If that's what you want, if that's what you think is stopping you from growing in your role and growing in your career, go do a Udemy course. And you will realize that very quickly that that's not what was lacking. It's something much bigger than that. And that's really what a B school effectively delivers. And specifically something Master Uni excels at.
No, fabulous. I think, Prabhu, you've given us a lot of food for thought. I also appreciate how candid you've been. And I love how closely attached are you to the journeys of all of your classmates. Like, you really, as a cohort, have come together to, be there for each other. To me, that's very endearing. So thank you so much for making the time again. And thank you so much for sharing your insights, your journey at Masters Union.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks, everyone.